You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. My guest, Oliver Bakavomowo, is researcher at University of Cambridge Faculty of Law, Kofi Bento, lawyer and senior vice president, Imani Africa, Dr. Gideon Boako, spokesperson and aide to the vice president. Sami Jemfi is national communications officer of the National Democratic Congress. Just a few of your messages. This one from Musa Abatwa says, it appears that the committee that probed the Ejura killings was established to shield some people in government who were on record to have admitted they were behind the unacceptable act. We have some people who admitted that. Really? I'm calling the leadership of Zongo community, Office of National Chief Imam, to add their voice for justice to be served. Why is the committee report silent on the Ashanti regional minister? So that is your question that you're asking. Now, this from Godwin Adawine, used to be on this show regularly. He's a law teacher and lawyer. He is speaking about the first issue we touched on briefly. He says the entire system of both academic and professional legal education in the country needs revolutionary restructuring to free the system from conservatism and make it progressive. From conservatism and make it progressive. Yakubu Ibn Chambers says, I have always asked the question about the difficulty of the law entrance exams in Ghana. Could it be a cult without an opening key? I know a friend who was denied entrance but later gained admission to the Georgetown University in the USA and broke records. Something is wrong somewhere, and something has to be done about it to curb the exodus of fine brains abroad. Right, so thank you for those messages. We'll be sharing some more with you subsequently. Thank you. Now, let's see if we can quickly dispense with the matter of, okay, let me read this next message sent in by my production. Jake says, you don't need to be a forensic scientist to ascertain the report on Kaka and Ejura riot is twisted. Very poor job from the committee. Collins Game says the single conclusion by the Ejura report that Kaka's death has nothing to do with his social or political activism is for me a national stab in the back on the 30-plus citizens, how we are able to throw away opportunity to right wrong of society. I can't think far. Okay, when you type the message, read it over again. Prince Henry in Koforidua says, since the time the committee members started questioning journalists who appear on the committee, some frightened and frivolous questions, I knew the report will not be accepted by the majority of the Ghanaian citizenry. Collins Little's letter says, political leaders are the reflection of our society. If we elect the same corrupt politicians every time, that's an obvious message that we don't want change. And then Baba, chairman in Tamale, says, the wanton bastardization of the committees and committees and commissions report in this country will lead us nowhere. And it is this very way we want to go. We need to plead to God to please give some of his angels to compose the committees and commissions that are asked to do work for the country. Thank you very much. So we want to see if we can take the next minute to the top of the hour to deal with the presidential jet issue quickly, and then we will keep a lot of focus on the Sino-Hydro, 2 billion that was promised to be the panacea to our infrastructure problems. Where is it now? How far are we gone with it? So, you know that President Akufo-Addo has come under some flack from the minority in parliament, particularly led by its ranking on foreign affairs, Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who has consistently looked at the presidential travels. The president has been chartering flights, and he calls them luxurious, extra luxurious flights. He did one that he gave us the cost at about 3.7 million. And he did another one that he gave us the cost that was so high, 2.8 million Ghana cedis earlier. That one was travel to South Africa and France. So the presidency has been responding to him. The Foreign Affairs Ministry has also been responding to him. Recently, he's spoken about how the presidential jet that we have has been doing the rounds with other presidents in other places, whilst our president has refused to use that one. Right. So begin on Zoom. Kofi, what do you make of the suggestion now? It doesn't seem like it's a suggestion, because we are now told that the Interior Minister has been taxed, and he has actually started the process to get the country a new presidential jet. What do you make of the discussions around it, that it is not it's a misplaced priority, it's not something we should think about?
Right. So my biggest problem with that whole thing is that too much of it is based in emotion and politicking. And when you have this emotion-driven, hot air-driven, dialogue, and you have situation where people are seeking to make political points out of it, then you lose the real substance of it. It's far-fetched for anyone to tell me that if NDC were in office, for instance, they would not buy jets. During President Mahamir's time, we had a problem with the buying of jets and the pricing of jets and whether we needed them and the things that came with them. And we lost quite a bit of money also in that area. And every government has more or less been involved one way or the other in the buying of jets. First question, propriety. Does Ghana need to run a presidential jet? We have a joke that when God wants to laugh at a rich person, he lets them buy a jet. Why? Because it is so expensive to keep. And you use it once a while, but packing it, keeping it, servicing it is so expensive. Now, if we were doing this not emotively and for the purpose of politicking, you will realize that there are so many options to actually owning and running a presidential jet. By the way, for a country which has an air force and therefore pilots, etc., some of the cost is already, we already have borne the cost, so we can do that. But elsewhere, you will find that even billionaires are shying away from owning jets. They're using services like net jets. You have a pool, you kind of subscribe to it. Whenever you need the jet, they give it to you. They give you a pilot, they give you a team and everybody. You use it, you finish, you send it back. And Warren Buffett, for instance, has found that very useful. Many billionaires have used that. I don't see why we cannot use that. It costs a fraction of ownership. There are so many other things. In fact, there are schools of thought that believe that it is better to charter the jet when you need it and send it back. It comes with the crew and everything, than to own it and maintain it. Because if you look at the cost of owning, maintaining, and all those things, the charter may be useful. My point is, I do not think it is excessive. I do not think it is frivolous. I do not think it is a waste of money for a country like Ghana to own one or maybe two jets for official, presidential, and other use. But our history so far is showing that we buy them at exorbitant, unjustified prices. We maintain them scandalously. Today you hear this missing, something happened, and then we sell them off at a loss. Somehow there's always some sort of scandal around this presidential jet issue. Now we have one, and we say we are not using it, or the president is not using it, but another president is using it. Whilst it's sitting there, we go and rent another one. We need to behave as if we are not a rich country. Okay, so I'm trying to manage the words. But the point I want to make is that I've said over and over again, when it comes to the comforts and privileges of our leaders, they behave as if we are a very rich country, like Arabian kings. When it comes to providing schools and hospitals and things that ordinary people need, then we remember we are a poor country. We behave like a very rich country when it comes to presidential jets and travel. And I think we should cut our code according to our size. This country can own and run a jet, but we must be very conscious and calculating about it. We may have better options than just owning it, but if we want to own it too, clearly when we bought the last one, there were options that people put forward to show that we could have gotten it for less. So if you ask me, what is this fuss about? I would say this fuss is basically about politicking and people trying to seek, political points about this. We should be calculating and decide what the policy on presidential travel is going to be. Honestly, I'm one of the people who believes that it is not too bad if our president or our presidency has a policy that anytime the president travels, we are going to have a first class travel for 6 or 7 people and pay for that. Ultimately, it may be cheaper than owning and running a jet. So can we take out the politicking? Can we take out the emotions? And can we look at numbers and options?
You suggest that it may be cheaper. You suggest that it may be cheaper, but there are those within the industry who have operated aircraft who tell me that that suggestion should be wrong and that there is no evidence to back that, to rather rent instead of having our own. That, number one, there are security issues. When our president uses a private jet, our national security officials cannot pre-sweep for bags and listening devices before the president flies on them. Again, that I'm told that this is the first and most important thing to consider, and that having one is cheaper. Actually, having one is cheaper, and that if anybody says that chartering an aircraft instead of owning one for the presidency is cheaper, that person doesn't know what they are talking about.
So, Samson, we need to do the math, all right? You buy the aircraft, and if you look at the last set of aircrafts we bought, the pricing compared to the pricing on the open market, where other people had gone to buy the same thing, was far more than what obtains normally. There's a problem there. It came with hangars and things. There's a problem there. Look at our history in terms of jet ownership, and you will find that we tend to pay multiples more than is normal. So the person who is making that calculation may be looking at what the general expenditure situation is concerning owning an aircraft for, let's say, 10, 20 years, okay? But that general expenditure situation is not what pertains in Ghana. And if you look at exactly what pertains in Ghana, how we own it, how we maintain them, how we sometimes leave them alone, and then we have big issues, and you look at the cost spread over renting or chartering, whatever it is, you come to find that in the last 10 years, or let's say in the last 20 years, the cost that we have borne on aircraft, if we're using it to charter, we may have been able to cover all the charter. So my point is, let's do the math. As for the security argument, look, it's a red herring. If you have a national security system that cannot sweep, check, and confirm the security of one aircraft that your president is going to use for a number of hours in a day, or a number of hours over a number of days, then what's your business going to put him in a hotel? Are you able to sweep and check the whole hotel? So people talk about these things. And if you talk about pilots, look, the better pilots are the ones who have a lot of time on the specific aircraft that the president is using. How many times does our president travel? And are we going to keep a pilot for maybe the Gulfstream or whatever it is, who will be training on other Gulfstreams or what? You are better off with a pilot that has spent a lot more hours piloting other people of the same caliber, etc. So again, these arguments or these things, they are sometimes driven by emotion. We need to have the hard calculations, and these are done by experts. Then they come and explain to us, this is what this means, this is what that means, and then let us go for this. I support a policy on presidential travel. So far, it's costing us too much.
Okay, thank you. Now, Oliver, what do you say? This is an aviation expert who himself has managed aircraft, and he says that you can only compare a flight hour for the same type of aircraft. So take the same aircraft type. One is a presidential jet. The other is a charter aircraft. The price per flight hour is built up using aircraft cost, depreciation, engine cycles, engine hours, engine maintenance reserves, fuel burn, crew cost, fixed cost per hour, etc., plus operating profit. So you can't make the comparison and suggest that, chartering is better than owning one. This is Kweku Entry Buesiako. He's been in this area before. Yes, Oliver, what do you say?
I think the natural reaction is that the question of acquiring a presidential jet for the president for Ghana goes beyond just costing. I don't think it's just a cost comparison question.
Okay.
And I think I could look at the problem from four angles. One, perhaps let's look at even transparency as to why government dealings, particularly public expenditure and government contracting, should be shrouded in so much secrecy. And it seems to me that there's a knee-jerk apprehension or perhaps even antagonistic approach to the release of public information about anything the state is involved in. We had the same problem when you consider Japan, Aka Energy, Sin Hydro, Kroll, even Agenda 11 procurement, then the presidential aircraft listing. Just about anything the government is involved in, you're bound to encounter significant resistance to public disclosure. And I may give recent examples, but the practice is of long date, right? And this really baffles me. With this attitude, which permeates like almost every level of public administration in this country, where our institutions operate on a certain level of secrecy, that there's an institutional psyche that gets offended when you question them. And that's what we are seeing around, Okudzeto Blackwell's in trying to still get information for the public. And I do not understand for myself why we have so much difficulty around this. Let me give you an example. When you see the release issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to respond to Okudzeto Blackwell's question on the circumstances under which the presidential jet was used by the presidents of Sierra Leone and Liberia, it's almost read as if, how dare you even demand answers for these questions? Or as they put it, Okudzeto Blackwell was seeking to deliberately muddy the waters with these negative comments. He's like, ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. He is a member of parliament. As to the circumstances under which we use it, you can just go ahead and give the bare facts. We decided to bring them to be able to facilitate the ECOWAS meeting. Full stop. There's no need to characterize it as if we're doing something wrong by when you're asking for information about how we use presidential jets, right? So that's one of the things that bothers me. The second one is about, the question of expediency. I have never seen public support for the acquisition of public presidential aircraft under any administration under the Fourth Republic, period. So I don't expect that any party is going into this discussion expecting the red carpet to be rolled out for them. But for some reason, some Republican politicians, on this, in an extremely competitive electoral framework like ours, you expect them to be sensitive to bad press. On the issue of presidential jets, they seem to not be very bothered by what the public has to say on the matter. And when you consider that Ghana is at the stage where it's the most indebted as it has ever been in its life, our public debt is mind-boggling. When you look at the information the Ministry of Finance put out in June 2021, as of June 2021, we're owing an equivalent of $58 billion. This amounts to about 76% of our GDP. So these are atrocious debts that a person would think, as Kweku was saying, that we'll be looking like we're a rich country when in fact we're in serious debt, which requires that we tighten our belts and that we look for areas where profligacy exists and be able to cut down on costs. And we're talking about emotions, and I think that emotions have a real place in this discussion. Because remind yourselves, this is a really short issue for a lot of Ghanaians and a lot of Ghanaian workers. Because since 2020, the government's response to about any issue has been COVID-19. We have thrown the COVID-19 over so many times that it has become an excuse for any government failing under the planet. When you take the early statement in economic policy for 2021, and even this mid-year statement in June, COVID-19 was referred to at least 300 times. And this is not just talking about COVID-19, but the negative of impact of COVID-19 on our economy. In the public sector negotiations with workers, the reason why they accepted 4% was because the government was continuously using COVID-19 as a reason why government finances were in a sore state. So accept 4%, Despite the fact that 4% was lower than the 9% yearly average inflation rates, despite the fact that we are increasing taxes, and for which reason you'll be poorer economically than you were last year, with all about COVID-19. So the government is selling an image of a cash-strapped government, which we must do everything as much as possible. I think it offends people's sentiment that we're not even keeping the little we have. We don't even have a craft which can do something. And we're going on and still acquiring certain things which are bringing on public costs. It doesn't really sound well and it doesn't sell well. And I think these are the conversations that need to be reintroduced into the discussion as to whether this is the time we need to have a presidential jet. Then finally, Akufo-Addo has made a strong point about the policy around flying, which I think needs to be given credence. When you go to other democracies, anytime the presidential jet is used for private purposes, it is fair to the individual, even during campaigning. I remember when President Akufo was president, there was a public interaction held where a law student from Ghana School of Law had asked him, when do you know when you are president, and when are you a candidate for the MPP when you're campaigning? And it's important because if you're going to be flying a person on state resources to, say, when the president is on a stomping ground for an election or doing something privately, you need to be able to determine that and charge that to the person. And that's what Akufo-Addo is saying, that there's so much instances where public resources are used to subsidize private lives of individuals that we are unable to be properly distinguished, and we're going to account for those. That's a problem we're dealing with. Even at the presidency, where private functions are being held and still the public is still paying for them. These are issues that bring sanity to public financing and the way in which we deal with the public thing. That sends a message across board that we are serious about disaggregating public cost and private cost. So I think we need to bring to this discussion.
Okay. Gideon, the minority in Parliament has been very clear. You have heard Haruna Idrisu, you have heard Akudjeto Ablakwa, and they're saying that the Akufo-Addo administration will not get the support of the NDC in purchasing a new aircraft. They say, we are not convinced that there is anything wrong with the current jet. That's the question. Yeah. Why are we shying away from telling the public what is wrong with the current one, for which reason there may be the need for another one?
I don't think Samson government is shying away from talking about what is wrong with the current jet. I mean, over and over again, this has been made public to the Director of Communications, to the President, the Ministry of Information, even the Minister for Defense. You remember he was in Parliament recently to answer questions relating to these presidential travels, and all these had been...
he and the Finance Minister have literally refused to answer the question as posed by Akudjeto Ablakwa.
I come to that, but on the matter of what is wrong with the current jet, remember on 30th of September, when the president was returning from the UN General Assembly, reports came that the jet that the president was using, which is the current presidential jet, had developed fault in one of the engines. And so it became quite difficult for the president to even use the jet to come to Ghana. They had to do an emergency landing somewhere and then change course with another flight. So this current presidential jet in its state does not have what it takes to do long-haul journeys. And this came from advice from the national security. It must be placed on record that before this incident happened, the president at all material times, whether he was traveling within the continent or across the oceans, was using the presidential jet. President Akufo-Addo, prior to 30th of September 2018, had consistently used the presidential jet until this fault started coming up, and subsequent other faults also came up. And then the national security advised that the presidential jet in such a state will not be proper for traveling across the Pacific and then Atlantic oceans or whatever. So that decision was taken. It's not a decision that a president gets up to say, today I'm not using this jet, tomorrow I'm using that. This is a national security matter we're talking about.
So he will use it, but
yeah, and the president
not for long travels.
Within the ECOWAS, anytime the president is traveling within ECOWAS, he's been using the presidential jet. It's only when he is going on a long haul journey, 6 hours, I think beyond 4 hours, that is when he uses, the chartered flights. So nobody can say that the president, out of trying to create a certain level of comfort around his travels, decided to abandon the presidential jet and then go for a chartered flight.
The question Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa has raised consistently has to do with the class of private jets that he takes. These are what has been described as extra luxurious.
He has the right to do whatever he's doing. But I think added to what he is describing and saying is a political sensationalism and the cheap politicking around this whole matter. If indeed we want the president to travel and this current jet is unable to serve that purpose, and then he goes for a chartered flight, the chartered flight that we're talking about, we should ask ourselves questions on whether or not it's the normal chartered flights that other, presidents and heads of states use. If we all come to the realization that as a country, okay, president, this jet is not in good shape, you cannot use it. When we're going for a chartered flight, let's go for a flight that costs X amount. And then we know that within that range of expenditure, it's good for the country. That's fair enough. As we speak now, we are unable to tell whether or not what the president uses currently in terms of the chartered flight is over expensive, moderately expensive, or less expensive. I must be candid on that. You see, those who have been arguing about should we charter or should we buy? I am not an expert, but I have traveled on, presidential convoys before, and I've used the current presidential jets. And to be honest with you, this presidential jet, there are times that even when we have to travel within Ghana, if I have my way, I'll go and use a commercial jet than using the presidential.
Oh, why?
Yes, because you see, you need to enter this presidential jet and see how the whole arrangement is made. Even when the president sits and somebody sits in front of him in opposite direction, without stretching your legs, both of you, your legs touch each other. The seats are unadjustable. There's no way you can recline even a bit. Okay? They are so fixed. You need to enter the presidential jet and see. If I have my way, sometimes, and there are on 2 occasions, I've avoided using the presidential jet. I went on a commercial flight. Because especially if you're going from here to Tamale, 1 hour or so, and if you have an airhead or something, you may not want to use that one. But that is what we have as a country. And the president makes do with that when he's traveling within the ECOWAS and all of that. But it is not in such a situation that you want to use it to travel 6 hours, 7 hours. The difficulty will be unbearable. That is there. But the chartered ones we are using, I've been trying to guess some simple calculations in my mind. That if you go for a chartered flight and you have to pay X amount of dollars all the time, anytime you travel, and you put everything together, we are told that from the time of President Mills up till now, we spent about $15 or so million on presidential travels, cumulatively from President Mills up to now. Let's ask ourselves as a country, if we were to buy a flight for the state that our presidents or heads of state will use, will it cost $50 million? If it will cost same or less, why then should we spend money in a
But President Mills was using the jet.
Which one?
This Falcon.
Yeah, he was using it. Yeah, President Mahama used it. At some point, he didn't use it. Okudzeto had indicated there were times he chartered flights and all of that. President Akufo-Addo was using it also until this fault came. Okay, so you can see that the expenditure on chartering vis-a-vis the expenditure on buying. Of course, when you buy, it becomes your property. You decide to use it as and when, and the security discussions around this whole matter. If the president is going to travel on a commercial flight, you're able to go and do the security checkups that you need to do and all of that. But I agree with Kofi that if we are buying, the cost must be such that the nation Ghana will not be seen as having been shortchanged. And then also, there should be a whole policy around the presidential jet if we're going to buy. We buy the presidential jet, we know that these are the standard operating procedures that we're going to use to manage it. And we manage it in such a way that it does not become like the bona fide property.
So can the president, if he has a charter, can't he be on a flight other than what we are told is the top of the range VIP luxury, jet that, industry, as it were, business people, the affluent who have nothing using their money for, are the ones who go on such a flight?
I think those are the descriptions of my friend Okudzeto Ablakwa and our colleagues in the minority as to whether or not what
the providers of such flights, the information that he supplies is found on their website.
Well, like I said, as it stands, those are the descriptions of our colleagues in the minority. They have put out pictures of the interiors of some of these flights that have been disputed by others also. So we need to find a fair balance and make a firm decision as a nation whether to go chartering or buying one for ourselves. I see prudence in the nation Ghana owning a presidential jet. It is so important that we don't have to second guess on it. But what matters most, like I said, is that we shouldn't just go to say we're buying a presidential jet for buying sake. The cost, the price, at what price we are buying it should be a subject for discussion and proper scrutiny, such that everybody will be at peace that, oh, indeed, this presidential jet we are buying, we got it at a good deal. And then when we get it,
well, we are told that the minister has been charged and he's in the process of looking for one. Yes, so I think one of the issues Okudzeto was raising, and he said, I quote, if our government is dealing directly with operators of LXD10, is that it? Yeah, deal. Then it is costing the Ghanaian taxpayer at least $14,000 per hour. However, if our government is leasing the aircraft via brokers or middlemen, as it has gained notoriety in many sectors, you shouldn't be surprised the Ghanaian taxpayer is being billed between $18,000 and $22,000 per hour. Question of use of middlemen, which also will increase the cost. Where do you stand?
I want to submit very forcefully that the decision by the Akufo-Addo Bawumia MPP government to buy a new presidential jet is a misplaced priority and will amount to a waste of the public purse if allowed. The mere thought of it at this time is insensitive to the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian and an insult to our sensibilities. If President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia cared about the sufferings of Ghanaians, they will not even think of buying a presidential jet at this time. And some of the justifications being mounted, for this expenditure, some of which we have heard on this platform, for me, are mind-boggling. Look, Samson, our economy is in shambles as we speak. The country is broke because we are spending almost 100% of our tax revenue on just interest payments, the interest on our debts. Almost 100% of our tax revenue is spent on that. That is almost 90%. That is a fact. When you were speaking, I didn't interject you. You get the opportunity. No, please. No, you have nothing to correct. I'm speaking to facts. When I'm done, you can come in.
Basically, is spent on 3 budgets.
No. Sometimes I don't think you should allow this.
No, it's important. Let him say.
Interests and then statutory funds. So it's not just
what you're saying. Is a blatant lie. If you look at 2021. Total tax revenue, total tax revenue for 2020 was 45.2 million. This year, you're projecting something around 47 million. That alone is equal to the total amount of interest we need to pay on our debt for 2021.
We need to pay.
Let me finish. Let me finich. Gideon.
Just get this right.
I think you have made the intervention. You have made the intervention, so it's okay.
Even if you pick total revenue, that is oil revenue together with tax revenue and all the revenue we are projecting to get in 2021, we are spending all that on just 2 budget line items. Compensation, which is the salary and wages of public sector workers, and interest payment. Today, we borrow for goods and services. Money for the running of government agencies, and we borrow for that. We borrow for statutory funds. We borrow for capital expenditure. We borrow for everything. Even money to buy fuel for the vehicles that our president and his entourage have been using. We borrow. Money for A4 sheet, for pens, for our ministry. We borrow to buy that. You understand? That is how broke we are, and all these things are facts. You are living in a country today where labor is calling for increases in their salaries. And government is saying, tighten your belts because we are not living in normal times.
They've been giving 4%.
Only 4%, the paltry 4%, despite the astronomical increases in general prices, as a result of their insensitive decision to slap as many as 6 taxes on the already burdened Ghanaian this year alone, 6 taxes. Look at the deplorable state of our roads, our health sector, our education sector. You go to our hospitals today, even in the capitals, and you find children and pregnant women lying on bare floors because there are no beds. In our schools, basic schools are not even getting access to textbooks 2 years after this government introduction of a new curricula. Go to secondary school, look at the deplorable state of infrastructure, look at the double track system. We need money to address all these issues of development, issues of job creation, and make life better for our people. And all you can think of is luxury and comfort. All you can think of is to purchase
safety of the president.
My brother, we have a presidential jet, don't we? The Dassault Falcon 900 EX, 11 years old. That jet is in pristine condition. It is airworthy. That matter has been settled.
He says national security says it's not.
He's lying because the minister...
I think you shouldn't be saying that. No, I think you shouldn't be saying that.
That is falsehood. It is falsehood because Dominic Nitiwul was summoned by Parliament. And when he appeared before Parliament and he was asked a question as to the condition of the presidential jet, the Falcon 900, he said the jet is airworthy. There's nothing wrong with it.
But nobody has said
you spoke about a fault. It developed sometime in 2018.
Yes,
but what machine in the world doesn't develop a fault? If the new jet you are going to buy, won't it develop faults? Why do we maintain jets? So because a machine develops a fault, we must throw it away.
So you disagree. You disagree with him.
The issue about
you disagree with him on the facts that national security says the president can use it for shorter travels, but not long distance travel. No, you can't say that.
I am saying so because the Minister for Interior, the Minister for Defense, Dominic Nitiwul, has told the entire country, he said it in Parliament, that the jet is airworthy.
You're confusing two things.
Let me
Being airworthy does not mean it can go on longer hauls.
It can go.
No, please.
The jet, President Mahama used the jet to Paris.
How do you understand
since you came to office, it has gone to Paris.
The time of President Mahama is not today.
Falcon 900 can travel for nine straight hours.
I think you explained.
That thing is airworthy.
You are heckling.
We agree. Nobody is saying it is not.
You are not like this. Don't do this.
But the fact that it is airworthy.
Yeah, but Sami, can we agree on this? Can we agree on this? That you don't say he's lying because the facts as he presents, he says he's been advised, the president has been advised to use it within a certain radius or limit, but not for a certain distance.
And I'm saying that.
So that is the basis of what he says. And the problem is.
I'm saying that, number one, he says that the jet developed a fault in 2018.
Which is a fact.
I am saying that cannot be a justification
Okay.
for the procurement of a new one. Because the new one you're going to buy, just like all vehicles, will also develop a fault. And that is why these machines are serviced periodically. Are you getting it? Number two, he says that the jet cannot go for long hour trips. I'm saying that President Mills used this jet. President Mahama used this jet. They went to Europe with it. They went to several countries with it. This jet can go anywhere in the world.
But that's prior to the fault developing in 2018.
Are you saying that when we bought it, it never developed a fault?
I don't know.
The Air Force One even develops faults. The new one you are going to buy can develop a fault 1 month after you buy it. Are you going to throw it away because it has developed a fault? That fault can be fixed. And according to the Minister for Defense, that fault has been fixed. The reason why the president of Liberia, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone are flying in that jet today, it is because it is airworthy. And if a jet is airworthy, it is airworthy. And this Falcon 900 ES can travel for 9 hours continuous. If you want to go to a place like the United States of America, all you need to do is to do a 45 minutes refuel stop. In any case, the new jets, the luxurious ones that they are hiring now, which cost the nation $14,000 per hour, one cost us $20,000 per hour, also do refuel stops. On his current trip to Houston from Accra, President Akufo-Addo did a refuel stop in the Azores, North Atlantic. When he was coming back to Ghana, he did a refuel stop at Cape Verde. Okay, even with this,
I think one of the justifications or reasons that the minister gave was the space. How many people the president wanted to travel with, and the Falcon is...
The Falcon can pick 9 people.
Yes.
The president of Zambia, when he was going for the UN General Assembly, flew commercial. He flew Qatar Airways with a delegation of 3 people. You have a jet which can fly 9 people, and others can even join you on commercial flights. The president of Namibia, when he was going for that same UN General Assembly, went with the same Falcon 900 with the people of Namibia bought in 1991. A jet which is 20 years older than our jet. Anytime President Mahama went to the UN General Assembly under his 4-year tenure, he flew commercial British Airways. President Mahama flew British Airways. So why this unbridled penchant for luxury and profligacy?
In fact, President Kufuor did, commercial flights for 8 years.
For 8 years, commercial flights. President Rollins did that.
But should we continue, that way?
The current, no, but you have a private jet now. Rollins and Kufuor didn't have that. And you say that the private jet doesn't have facilities that can suit your comfort, and that you want a jet which you can shower in and all that. Look at all these unnecessary luxury that our president is looking for. He wants to live like an Arabian king, a Russian oligarch. In this time of difficulty, you cannot be heaping taxes on your people, telling your people to tighten their belts, to be patient and all that, because we are living in difficult times. When people are wallowing in penury, okay, and when you want to live in luxury, that is unacceptable. And Mr. Bento should understand that this is not emotion. This is not politics. We are being responsible citizens. We are calling on the president to protect the public purse like he promised to do when he was in opposition. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with the current jet we have. It can go anywhere in the world. The only thing you need to do is that for long journeys, you do 30, 45 minutes, maximum 1 hour refuel stops, which the current luxurious jets our president is using for his recent trips still do. Now my point is, something, look at the millions we are losing through this insatiable taste of the president for luxury. In 3 months alone, we have spent 10 million Ghana cedis on the last 3 travels of President Akufo-Addo. You recall that in 9 months alone in 2019, the Auditor General said that this government spent 62 million Ghana cedis on foreign travels. That is 620 billion old Ghana cedis. Okay? Look at what this money can do for
President Kufuor said, we know the cost of everything but the value of none. We are being told that we should think about what the president brings by his travels.
So when President Mahama was flying commercial, and even when our jet, and by the way, President Mahama only chartered private jets when the state presidential jet, that's what Falcon 900, was not available. Okay, if it is not available, it is justified. But like you said, Samson, and I think they should listen to the wisdom in what you said, even if there is a need for the president to charter a jet, There is Vista. We used to charter jets by Sahara Airline. $6,000, $7,000 per hour, just like the cost of that's what I call 900 EX, which we own as a country. You go for jets that cost as much as $20,000 per hour, $14,000 per hour. Monies which could have been used to build schools, create jobs, build roads, hospitals, to improve the living conditions of Ghanaians. You are wasting it on your luxury. And you come and tell us that, oh, because of COVID, the economy is not good, bear with us and all that. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that the people of this country should rise up. We must not allow this. And let me commend the minority for indicating clearly that this will not have their blessing, this will not have their support. We must do everything to resist this. It is needless, it is wasteful, this is not what we were promised. We have to think about the socioeconomic challenges affecting our people and stop this culture of profligacy, ostentation, and wastage.
Thank you very much. And on the note of a message by PK Elembele says, in fact, this MPP government has the penchant of using taxpayers' money on unnecessary priorities. First of all, don't we have a presidential jet as a country? This clearly shows that the government is clearly deviating from the urgent needs of the country, such as providing one district, one factory to other deprived districts in Ghana. On the Sino-Hydro deal, in fact, this government is failing to glitter. The talking is too much. And the NDC regime alone was taking from the same China, and Ghana gas was built. But what we are witnessing today is just a matter of more talking and less to be seen. We will take a break and return to give you the facts. And that's why Gideon is here, to give you the facts about the Sino-Hydro 20 billion infrastructure deal, so we know where we stand. This show is brought to you by Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go, Ashasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing, way lead, home is where one starts. Star Assurance, your solid partner. MG Auto Trading, official distributors of MG vehicles in Ghana. CBG, we stand with you. Fabrimental, your partner in steel. We'll be right back.